Hi all, today we are dealing with the poem Anecdote of a Jar written by Wallace Stevens. First of all, we have to discuss a few things about the author Wallace Stevens. Stevens is an American modernist poet. He was born in Reading, Pennsylvania. His first volume of poems came out in 1923. The title of the book was Harmonium. The Emperor of Ice Cream, Sunday Morning Snowman were considered as his major contributions to the literary canon. The poem explores the struggle between man and nature. The theme is man versus nature or artificiality versus naturalness. When left alone, nature grows continuously, existing harmoniously in interconnected ecosystems. Every creature, plant, and organism in nature plays a major role in supporting the rest of the environment. But man tends to take over when he goes to a new place as destroying everything in his path. As a result, he disrupts the delicate balance that exists in nature. People introduce artificiality into the world, converting nature from its original state of vitality and freedom to one of repression and control. In the poem, the jar, a man made object used for containment, is the ultimate representation of this repression. Stevens uses symbolism, juxtaposition, personification, and the relationship between the narrator and the jar to effectively illustrate the containment imposed on nature by humans. A jar is an object made by man using unnatural materials. Its shape is also artificial. It is described vaguely as round. It has a specific and immovable shape. It forces the material placed in it to conform to its shape. It is placed on a hill, giving it an advantage. A jar also serves as a barrier between what is inside and what is outside. The final feature of a jar that supports the argument that it represents containment as its lid. When the jar is closed with the lid, it completely shuts on the rest of the world, enclosing only what is desired in the limited space of jar. The jar itself is the most obvious illustration of containment. The jar is also personified. It takes human characteristics, it has the ability to interact with and affect the world around it. It represents something much longer than itself. It represents humanity and civilization. The jar's interaction with the wilderness reflect the interaction of human beings with the natural world. The most important action of the jar performs is taking dominion everywhere in the wilderness. It reveals the true power the jar has over the wilderness. The wilderness was suppressed. It was no longer wild when it rose up to the jar. The jar is merely sitting on a hill, but it is capable of exerting such a force over nature that it tames the unruly wilderness, forcing it to surrender to its control. The jar represents of humanity as a whole. The jar did not appear on the hill on its own. It was made by man and it was placed on the hill by man. Represented by the pronoun I which start the poem, the power behind the jar's influence and interaction with the environment is that of a human being. Humans do not always make direct impact on the natural world. Their influence is felt through the byproducts of their presence. The jar, a symbol for all of humanity, limits the wilderness, reflecting humanity's repression of nature. We can see further meanings in the poem. The jar is an inanimate object. It is artificial, not a part of the nature surrounding it. The wilderness is made up of living creatures, plants, and organisms. Trees and animals do not exist in isolation. They mutually support one another. Again, we can see that the jar is immobile. But the wilderness, in contrast, is ever changing. We can also see that the jar is grey and bare. It is dull, plain, and ordinary. And slowly, wilderness is filled with color and texture. Leaves and trees, flowers and plants, as well as the diverse creatures that live there. By employing these contrasts, Stevens steps up to the opposing forces that make up both sides of the struggle between the jar, representing humanity, and the wilderness, which represents the natural world. And that's all about the poem Anecdote of a Jar.